to wait till 7, but everybody's waiting.
Welcome to the Herndon Town Council public hearing of May 28th, 2019.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'd like to make a quick announcement and welcome Martin Krinn, who is the assistant to our town attorney. He's sitting in this evening for our town attorney who's unable to be here. So welcome back. It's always a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Thank you. We'll try to behave. So I will call the meeting to order and ask that you join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have several sets of minutes up for approval this evening. Is there a motion to approve the April 2nd work session minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Is there a motion to approve the April 9th public hearing minutes?
So moved. Second.
Discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? That motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the April 16th work session minutes?
Second.
Ooh. Discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? And finally, is there a motion to approve the April 23rd public hearing minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed. Thank you very much. This evening, our one and only presentation is a certificate of appreciation to recognize Charlie Kemp on the occasion of his retirement. And if you're not sure who Charlie is, he's the really happy-looking guy down here in the front row. We're really proud of you. Congratulations. I'm going to invite forward Tammy Chastain, who's going to provide an introduction and an overview of your illustrious career here in the town.
Many accomplishments.
Just remember, Charlie gets the last word.
Yes, so true. All right. So Mr. Charles T. Kemp, a.k.a. Charlie, or at times CK, is the epitome of a public servant. He has been a true professional at all times. He has such a wealth of knowledge and patience to share. He was truly an asset to DPW and the town for his 32 years. As I mentioned, he was knowledgeable about almost anything. There wasn't a topic I brought up that he didn't have any information or anything to share. He started with the town in 1986 as an engineering technician, one draftsman, and is said to have been the best draftsman the town has ever had. He put those skills to use many times over the years, even after he left that position. Most recently, he used those skills to help finish the plans for our new and long-awaited shop conference room. And he's more than welcome to come back this winter when we turn it into our winter operations center. He moved to project management in 1989. And then came to the dark side where we have cookies and iced coffee when he became the General Services Administrator at the shop in 1992. That's the position he stayed in the longest, for over 20 years, before he moved to the Public Works Superintendent position in 2012, where he's been a key leader ever since. When I first met Charlie, it was during a Skype interview. My interview, to be exact. He was fairly quiet and reserved, but I found that that's only until you sit down and talk about any issues, problems, anything really, and then he has quite a bit to say. Or maybe he just did it because I sat there pretty much every day and talked to him. And if it has to do with the town, he always seemed to have the history on what happened, why we did what we did, and he'd always have a solution. And he's very thoughtful in his responses and thorough in his ideas and those solutions. Doing the operations and maintenance work that we do for the town, it's quite often we're tasked to solve the problems that satisfy everyone. And as you know, that is quite often impossible. So, however, Charlie tended to find a solution that would make citizen happy, solve their problem, and fit within our budget. He knew the importance of planning, getting things done in a timely manner, and getting it done right the first time because no one wanted to revisit a problem that we didn't actually fix as well as we wanted. Charlie's well respected by the town, by everyone at the shop. He'll be greatly missed, and we wish him best in his retirement. We hope you quickly learn how to live on lake time. To his sons, Kirk and Tom, thank you for allowing your father to leave your family on many occasions to come to the shop and work on whatever shift we needed him on. And to Cindy, thank you for sharing your husband with us for the last 32 years. I know in the shop for the last 27 years he's worked much more than usual, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. He probably even had phone calls interrupting something you guys were on vacation, dinner. And I want to thank you for your support for him, because I know because he had that support, he was willing to come in and work whatever hours we needed. So, and we have a little something for both of you, actually. My helper. These are for Cindy.
Oh,
See, I got this for you, Charlie.
that's for you.
But we also have a picture that I believe Charlie took this picture, actually, of the snow plow on the truck. And one of the more iconic ones, and we signed it, obviously a little.
So nice.
But that is for you as well.
And we have a little something for you as well. So we're going to call in comments from the council and the audience, and then we'll come forward for the presentation. And then if you'd like to say a few words, we would welcome you to do that if you would like. Are there comments from council? Anybody? No? I'm like, come on. I know somebody over here has got something to say. Ms. Friedrichs.
Charlie, I didn't know your name, but I knew your face. So you've been in Herndon as longer than I have, and I want to thank you for your service and wish you well in your retirement. And I also want to say that it speaks very well for our town that you've been willing to spend this much time with us. So thank you so much, and good luck.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I, too, am going to miss seeing your face. Our DPW workers are the best. Everybody loves you. And we're going to really miss you. And what's awesome about having people that stay around as long as you do is when the new people come up with these bright ideas that have already been tried, you could always let them know. We've done that 18 times. So good luck, and we will miss your face. But come visit us, and you can just walk around and say, call Tammy.
Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Baker, followed by Mr. DeCall.
Almost 33 years. I want to give you credit because it's almost 33 years, and that's just a long time to be dedicated to the town. So thank you so much for your service. Do wish you well in the next chapter. Congrats on being retired.
Thank you for your service. 32 years is a long time. Never got chance to know each other when you were working, but now we know each other. So hopefully we'll be in touch. And congratulations for well-earned and well-deserved retirement. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for your service. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are very envious of where you're going to go from now. So thank you again.
Thank you. I concur with my colleagues. I'm just excited that maybe you'll get to enjoy a snowstorm finally. You can be like cozy up, not answer the phone. It's going to be a whole new world for all of you, isn't it? No, congratulations. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward? Yes, ma'am. Come on down. I get the feeling they may save the stories for the after party.
Charlie, I just wanted to thank you for being the voice of reason on that Public Works team, and you've done so much to help us mediate problems, find solutions. You're always willing to try and figure out a way to make things happen when we invented all kinds of issues, problems, and ideas with Parks and Recreation events and facilities. So thank you so much. We're going to miss you helping really smooth things out and make things work. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to come forward? Come on down. Don't be shy.
Charlie, I'd just like to say on behalf of your counterparts here at HMC and the engineering, building inspections, and admin department that we also have enjoyed your wealth of knowledge. I'm sure it'll be sorely missed, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you and hope everything goes well with you in your retirement and your family. Thank you.
Charlie, I won't pick you apart, but after 30-some years, me and you're starting to look a lot alike, I think, losing hair and everything else. But, I want to commend Charlie. I did a lot of years with the police department, and Charlie was my go-to guy at the town shop, helped me ordering police cars. And keeping cars on the road all the time. And every time I ever had a problem, I could go to Charlie, and he would make sure things happened. He was my computer guy because I wasn't very good at putting all that stuff in the computer, and try to buy him lunch and all that kind of stuff to help him do it. But you're going to have a big loss with Charlie leaving. I can tell you that. He is an asset to the town of Herndon and a good friend. Okay?
Thank you. Come on down.
I'm shy. I'm actually Johnny. I've been with Charlie almost 25 years. Been to go to his office and you ask him, you got a question or problem, it's just like Tammy says. If he didn't have it then, he always come up with a solution later. And he helped me out so many times on different projects, and he's going to be missed. I'm going to miss him. I know other guys going to miss him too. So I thank him for him helping us out. Okay?
Thank you. Who else would like to come down? Anybody? Anybody else? All right. Well, congratulations. You might have to screen your calls at the sign of that first snowflake, but we really genuinely appreciate the time you've given to the town and wish you all the best. And I know your wife is thrilled to have you around more now, so have a great time. We are going to invite down the entire council and dais. Anybody who would like to come forward from Department of Public Works or anyone in the audience to honor Charlie, we've got a couple of gifts for him. And then, Charlie, we'd love to hear from you if you have anything to say.
Once in a while, I have a couple.
No, the only thing I have to say is, who's going to take the pictures of DPW?
No.
We're going to save a lot of space on servers and stuff that we don't have every event.
Nothing holds it down like
Madam Mayor and members of Town Council and Manager Ashton, I just want to take a moment. I'd be remiss just to say that I only look good because I have a good staff that's under it, and they do all the work, and it's just a great team to work with. So I just, it all started coming here just to do drafting, but it went a little further than that. So, but yeah, it's really, it's everybody working together that makes it work every day. So that's the key to it. Thank you.
Thank you. So that brings us to comments. Mr. Town Manager, do you have any comments for us this evening?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I was informed, speaking of DPW and the shop, I was informed about mid-afternoon that we had some equipment issues with the brush pickups today. And if you recall, we had a holiday yesterday, so we were doubling up today. And so some brush may not have been picked up. We will get it on Thursday. And I just need to let folks know that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Mr. DeCall? you have any comments for us?
Nothing much. Just I attended 2 events from the town Memorial Day observance and Junior ROTC Spring Award ceremony. 2 of those, and I'm ready for Herndon Festival.
Yes, we are. Ms. Baker.
Sure. Yes, thank you to the American Legion Post 184 for putting on a really wonderful ceremony yesterday to make sure we all remember what the long weekend is all about. I also went to Next Stop Theater this weekend. I mean, Next Stop Theater is really, we are so lucky to have a theater of that caliber in our little 4.2 square miles. This current performance is no exception. Singing in the Rain, if you've seen the movie from the 50s, this performance is so worth seeing. It's really fun. It is a great way to spend an evening. It runs through June 23rd, so please make sure you go get some tickets for that. They also have week-long classes if you need something to do with your 1st through 12th graders. Remember, there's week-long classes throughout the summer, so look into that as well. Very excited about the Herndon Festival this weekend. I know there's folks that are questioning, and I know it's a new location, and change is always hard. I get that. Please come. Our staff and the committee for the festival has taken hours and hours, and really it's taken a year of planning to put this on. It is a great event. It's the 39th year, right? So try it out. It's a new location. There's still lots of bands. There's over 50 acts. The whole event ends with Vertical Horizon, which is a huge band. I told all my millennials that I work with, they're super excited about that. I might actually get them out from DC to come to Herndon for Vertical Horizon. So I think it's going to be a great event. And I literally did the walk last night down the trail just to do a little dry run. It took 15 minutes. 15 minutes from downtown, down the WNOD trail. There's a path right in from there. Really easy. So I hope to see all of you Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or all of the above.
And that was walking?
That was walking.
Okay. Wow.
Yes,
Fast.
I walked. Yes. Of course it was walking. See,
Just making sure it wasn't like a bike, making sure
no,
we
I
got
did.
accurate
Yeah.
information here.
Yeah, you can walk just down the trail from downtown. I timed it. It was 15 minutes. Now, granted, I walk a little bit fast, but still, maybe 20 minutes. And then the last thing, this is my last time I get to mention I think all of you have heard this many, many times. This has been 2 years in the making, that Herndon High School Band will be performing at the 75th anniversary of D-Day next Thursday. And there's still time to buy these cool hats, right? Because we are, of course, our town is named after Commander William Lewis Herndon. And the very first ship that landed on Normandy on D-Day was the USS Herndon. It's this amazing connection we have with that ship because we're both named after the same hero who died in 1857. I just want to acknowledge again Margaret Jamborski. She is one of the band parents who has done an incredible job to make this trip so special for all of the kids that are going on this trip. If you haven't, so just Google Herndon High School Band Normandy. She did a 17-minute video. I won't take that long, I promise. But you can watch really where she has looked at, from our Herndon historic from the depot, right? She found the roster of the USS Herndon. There was 301 men on that ship on D-Day. All of them survived D-Day. That might be something you don't know. They didn't all survive the war, but they did all survive D-Day. 8 of them are still alive today. Right? One of them is going with us on the trip. I think I've mentioned that. James Clermont, who's 94 years old. But again, just Margaret Jamborski, who we, of course, acknowledged in April at the Volunteer Appreciation, Mayor's Volunteer Appreciation Banquet, just has put in countless hours. She's printed up these, she was able to reach 292 of those men's families to get pictures and bios and information. So each band student that's going will have information on 1, if not 2 or 3 veterans of what they did, a picture of them. So that really rings true and puts that connection with what we're honoring by commemorating D-Day and that beginning of the end of World War II. So be thinking of us. The band, we're gone from June 4th to June 11th. I'll be back in time for the public hearing in 2 weeks. And if you know a band parent or a band kid that's going, please reach out and wish them well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Delega.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Definitely looking forward to the festival, and I encourage folks that can't walk. There's plenty of biking, valet parking there, so get there any way you can, and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McKenna.
Just two things. The first thing, I got a wonderful email. It was summer's here, so the Herndon Youth Advisory Council is not going to be meeting, but we're going to have one summer meeting. I'm trying to get all the kids together to try to do something in regards to our 5-year plan for the town. And one person, Andy Freeman, his mother wrote me and said he would be on vacation from June 12th to June 26th, but then from June 28th to the 30th, him and his family are heading down to Wise, Virginia for the rural area medical event he learned about from the guest speaker we had from the Lions Club at the Herndon Youth Advisory Meeting. And that guest speaker was provided by Ankit Poodle because he is the president of the Leo Club, which is the junior member of the Lions. So it's just really it's a great feeling to see these kids taking initiative and doing things and being the change they want in the world. So my hat's off to everyone. But that email definitely made my day. And then I do want to congratulate Officer Musgrove. Tomorrow you'll be 5 weeks a dad. So your boy Hudson. So we thank you for being here. We know you're probably sleepless right now, but congratulations nonetheless, and thank you for keeping us safe.
Yeah. Ms. Friedrichs.
I want to emphasize what Councilmember Baker said about the festival. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, it's not going to be the same. There won't be this and there won't be that. These people know what they're doing. Our event organizers, headed by the wonderful Cindy Roeder, do an amazing job, and this year will be no exception. And do not, deprive yourself of the opportunity to volunteer at a beer booth, to marshal, and to hang out and have a really, really good time. I also wanted to mention that Vice Mayor Olam wasn't able to attend the committee for Dulles, and I attended in her place. Had the opportunity for those who were concerned about the meals tax to speak with Sharon Comiskey, who is the one of the managers at the Marriott, and we had a very good conversation about their particular situation, which was of concern. And we also were spoken to about some concerns about the zoning issues near the airport. And they were concerned because the zoning regulations near the airport have been relaxed so that there can be housing built in the flight path of the airplanes. I'm concerned because if they build those and people in that area don't like having planes overhead, they might shift the plane path in our direction. So I'm going to be watching that, and I know Vice Mayor Olam will be as well. And I, too, am looking forward to the festival, and I enjoyed the Next Stop Theater production as well. Highly recommend.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, there's been a lot going on in the area. Singing in the Rain was absolutely awesome. I saw it. Sat next to a council member. And also Memorial Day. That was one of the nicest ones I've been to in a long time. The speaker was outstanding. Thoroughly enjoyed his speech. And in case you haven't heard, we have 4 of our Herndon businesses were named in the Virginia Living magazine. Meg Donnelly, who is a massage therapist, is rated #1 in Northern Virginia. Our very own Green Lizard was named the #1 bicycle shop in Northern Virginia. And Art Space was named #2 for galleries. I was going to say museums, no. Galleries. And they came in second to the Torpedo Factory, which is huge. And they beat Grace over in Reston Town Center. So we've got great businesses in Herndon, 3 of them making it, 2 top 2s, one top, and the other one second. And the biggest announcement I have, and I see someone else out there that might be excited about this, Gracie showed up about 4:30 this afternoon with my brother. We call him Uncle Dave. So give me a call. This is going to be a real brief trip because she drove up. But Gracie is in town.
Oh, my gosh, I can't believe you're here.
I know.
Wow, that's great news.
And if you're watching from home, Gracie, here I am.
Gracie, we're so glad you're feeling better. We're so glad you're in town.
Everybody's happy.
That's great news. Thank you for sharing that. Well, I concur with my colleagues about the festival. I've had more than one person in the past week say, it's moving. Yes, it is moving. You can see the action over at Northwest Federal Credit Union. They are a great community partner. They are so excited to be hosting this. They have probably weren't sure what they'd gotten themselves into, but they have really stepped up and been a great partner, I know. Channel 4 and Channel 7 are coming out to do some promo work about the festival. There are going to be even a couple more carnival rides than in the past, so when people are worried about it, throw that out there. That's good news. The bike valet that I think Mr. Delagula mentioned is bigger than ever this year, and we're hoping that that's going to get a lot of use. So can't wait to be there. And Vertical Horizon, I know, I was like, wow, they were huge when I was in college. It was just a couple years ago, so that was exciting. I did want to mention this, that the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution is coming up. The 19th Amendment to the Constitution was passed by Congress on June 4th, 1919, and I'm mentioning that because we won't be back at the dais before then, which guaranteed all citizens the right to vote regardless of their gender. The amendment was later ratified on August 18th, 1920. Next year will be a big milestone. It'll be 100 years since that has occurred. It'll be an opportunity for women of all backgrounds, experience, age, and views to unite and celebrate 100 years of leadership and inspire following generations of women leaders. So I would like to ask the town to formally recognize this date, and I've asked the town clerk to plan for a proclamation for presentation at our meeting on August 11th, 2020 to celebrate and encourage community-wide observance of the 19th Amendment's centennial anniversary. And so with that, this brings us to comments from the audience. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and speak on any item that's not listed as our public hearing item, that does include our consent agenda, if there is anything on consent, I can't remember, or our general items, or anything else that you would like to bring to the council's attention. You have up to 3 minutes. State your name and address for the record, and when the red light comes on, please wrap up. Is there anyone that would like to come forward? No? Okay. Thank you very much. And Officer, I meant to congratulate you as well. I used to come when my kids were little. I came to Tuesday night meetings to rest. So now you'll understand like what I mean. You get to sit still. You know, congratulations. It just gets better and better. So that brings us, we just have one public hearing this evening, which is Resolution 19G42 to consider 2 additional chapters of the Urban Design and Architectural Guidelines for the Herndon Transit-Oriented Core. I'll open the public hearing. We have received a couple of comments that have been put into the record, and I will recognize Bryce Perry, our Deputy Director of Community Development, for our staff report. Good evening, Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For your consideration, the Town Council's consideration, are the final 2 chapters of the Urban Design and Architectural Guidelines for the Herndon Transit-Oriented Core, which I'll refer to as the HTOC guidelines for the rest of my presentation. These are the signage and the landscaping chapters. The HTOC guidelines include design direction for redevelopment within the HTOC. Those are the 9 properties that were master planned with the Herndon Metro Area Study and the Herndon Transit-Oriented Core Plan and are closest to the Herndon Metro Rail Station and south of Herndon Parkway, which is shown in the aerial on this slide here. The rest of the guidelines document, which focused principally on guidance for building architecture, was adopted and added by reference to the zoning ordinance in 2013. As adopted then and as proposed to be updated with the inclusion of these 2 additional chapters, the HTOC guidelines are one way in which the town is able to implement the design tenets and the design vision expressed in the master plan, which of course called for a vibrant, mixed-use urban environment with an emphasis on quality design, sustainable development, and multimodal transportation options. As intended, the guidelines have become a very important tool, not only for the town's evaluation of the design of redevelopment projects within the HTOC, but also for developers and their design teams, because it articulates really what the town's expectations are for design in the HTOC. This will be true of the landscaping and signage chapters, which will provide staff and town officials consistent standards by which to assess landscape and signage design and provide the developers a clear understanding of what design components and level of design is important to the town for this area. Excuse me. These two chapters were drafted by professional urban design and landscape architecture consultants hired by the town in close consultation with town staff and were reviewed by the Architectural Review Board in November of 2018 and the Planning Commission in April of 2019. The HTOC property owners and the representatives were sent these drafts of the landscaping and signage guidelines on a few occasions beginning last fall prior to the Architectural Review Board review. And those stakeholders were notified with each of the reviews by the ARB, by the Planning Commission, and by the Town Council. Comments received to date were really limited to a few questions for clarification and really just acknowledgments of receipt. Staff did receive an email from one of the stakeholders earlier today indicating that they would be attending this evening and possibly providing some comment. The drafts of each of these chapters, which I'll get into here in a minute, have not changed since before the Architectural Review Board reviewed them. Staff has been collecting all of the suggested amendments since that time in errata sheets. So when the Town Council is ready to decide on these chapters, those sheets that are titled lists of amendments would be referenced and attached as part of the Town Council's resolution for adoption. Staff would then, of course, work with the consultants to ensure that each of these amendments are properly integrated into the final document. On the next few slides here, I'll go through a summary of the signage chapter is arranged starting with a design philosophy, followed by a handful of objectives, design objectives, which relate to all different sign types. And that then goes into design principles associated with sign placement, sign size, sign material, and sign fabrication. And the last section are sign standards that are specific to each of the 14 sign types. So those sign standards provide specific direction on size, on number, on location, and on means of illumination for each of the individual sign types. The sign chapter focuses on ensuring a diversity in sign types that help create a dynamic urban environment expected in the HTOC. It also focuses on high quality signs that exhibit their own character and collectively help contribute to a cohesive signage program, not only for individual businesses, but for the district as a whole. This chapter relies on, well, mainly on written sign standards, but also precedent images that provide good examples of well-designed signs that meet the proposed standards. And also a few architectural perspective drawings that give the reader a sense of where the various sign types are located, are generally located on a building. One such rendering shows the general locations of all 14 sign types that are permitted, and another one, the one that's shown here, shows a close-up view of the different sign types that are permitted on the ground floor. There was a comment at the work session last week that was related to both of those renderings, and I'm going to get into that in a few more slides. The landscaping chapter is divided up into a few sections. The first section that it covers is called Connections. This section provides the design guidance for all the public and private streets within the HTOC. It focuses on ensuring the streets have a consistent quality design that is visually appealing and has a high level of service for pedestrians. For this portion of the chapter, much of the content is graphics-based. So there's architectural plan views, there's architectural street sections, and there's these axonometric perspective renderings, which is what the image is on the bottom left of this slide. And combined, all of those illustrate the dimensional standards for the various streets in the HTOC. Moving on to the next section is in the landscaping chapter, and that is referred to as the spaces section. These guidelines cover the plaza areas, the small parks, and the pedestrian-only passages. That includes the promenade, that pedestrian passage that runs from Herndon Parkway down to the Herndon Metro Rail Station. You might be hearing a bit of a theme here, but these guidelines emphasize creative and diverse designs that define and strengthen an engaging urban setting and hopefully a unique sense of place for the HTOC. More so than the street section, this section relies heavily on precedent images and some graphics to provide good examples of other urban landscapes that succeed in meeting the objectives and the guidelines that are set forth in the document. Both the connections and the spaces sections of the landscaping chapter include specific standards related to surface materials such as pavers and planting areas, specific standards related to site furnishings such as benches and bicycle racks, and specific standards related to site and accent lighting. And these are just a handful of some of the precedent images that were pulled from the proposed draft guidelines, showing each of these items. The final section of the landscaping chapter deals with environmentally sustainable design. It includes general objectives on certain sustainable practices such as on-street stormwater retention, green roofs, natural areas integrated into plaza areas. It also contains in-depth plant palettes of native species that are tolerant for local urban environments, such as what we expect in the HTOC. Now, for the signage chapter, the proposed amendments in the errata sheets are relatively minor in nature. They tweak some of the sign standards, but they don't introduce any new sign standards or any new sign types. At the work session, Councilmember Baker was concerned with an apparent disconnect between the sign location renderings, the two graphics that are shown in the signage chapter. Staff agrees that that second image, which is the close-up of the ground floor sign types, is it's redundant for one. It's also a bit confusing because it doesn't actually show all of the ground floor sign types. So, of course, staff will work with the consultant to make sure that the close-up image is either corrected to accurately portray all of the ground floor sign types, or we might look at just omitting it altogether if it is a complete redundancy to that other larger graphic that shows all 14 sign types. For the landscaping chapter, the proposed amendments are also mostly minor in nature, but there were a few that were a little bit more substantial. One was adding guidelines related to the creation of focal points using public art and using historic references in combination with site furnishings and creative landscape design. That's something that was missing previously. Another change would be setting exact specifications for site furnishings on private streets for benches and bicycle racks and streetlights and trash and recycling receptacles, and the purpose there would really be to ensure that there's a consistent image or a consistent design that's experienced throughout the entire neighborhood. Another is providing a specific private street design for the street that abuts the toll road that would have buildings on one side and would have a pedestrian and bicycle connection that serves as an extension of the Sugarland Run Trail that is currently not in the document. And the last one is removing the drawings of the promenade that are currently within the document so as not to be overly prescriptive in its design. And in place of that, add several strong design guidelines that express what design components the town expects the promenade to include. This change is intended really to maximize the flexibility of the promenade's design for a developer, while at the same time conveying a message that the promenade, of course, must be thoughtfully designed as one of the most important open spaces in the town. Since the work session, staff has not received any comments from the public on these guidelines as proposed, other than the indication that some comments might be provided this evening. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Perry? Questions? No? Yes, sir.
Just to reiterate, zero interest, inquiries, questions, nothing from the public. Emails.
Not that staff is aware of.
Okay. Wow. Thank you.
Other questions for staff? Yes, ma'am.
Have you received any questions from the developers? Any of the potential developers or?
The one email staff received today was from a representative of one of the property owners who had was specifically interested in the design of the promenade.
The signage?
The design of the promenade.
Redesign of the property. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So I did see that one constituent, one townsperson, wrote about the direction of the lights, whether they went up versus down, and I do see there are a few lights that could possibly, in the images that you gave, Ms. Glakis asked some questions about that. Have you had a chance to think about that at all?
Yes, and I do apologize. I misspoke earlier. That comment was received. Staff did receive that comment from Ms. Glakis regarding the lighting, and there are the town's lighting ordinance will govern the direction of site lighting, and part of that is that one of the sign sirens located in the ordinance states that lights must face downward. So that is already covered in the zoning ordinance, and staff will be sure to make sure that the guidelines reflect that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Perry? Okay, thank you. Well, this is a public hearing, and we will call for comments from the audience. I believe I know we have at least a couple people who'd like to come forward. The same situation as before, up to 3 minutes. State your name and address for the record, and when the red light comes on, please try to wrap up. Who would like to come forward? Yes, sir. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Kitchen, no S. My apologies.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. My name is Mike Kitchen. I'm with Christopher Consultants, and I'm here as a representative of the owners of 593 Herndon Parkway. You'd received an email from me this morning in regards to the proposed guidelines, not only for the landscaping, but for the signage. We're currently working with the ownership of 593 right now on a development plan to hopefully be submitted in the near future. And right now what we're trying to do is determine what impact these guidelines may have on that development plan. We're going to actually have a meeting with ownership tomorrow to go over that. We're planning on meeting with staff soon after that in order to basically come up with a concept that is going to address everybody's concerns, not only for the promenade, but for the remainder of the project. And so it's our hope that we can defer a decision on these until we get a better feel for what impact they may have on our concept and get back to y'all. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Who else would like to come forward and speak on this item? Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and move to council level for discussion and action of Ms. Baker.
Madam Mayor, I move we continue this to a date certain of July 9th.
I'll second that.
Okay. Make sure I get that right. Okay, we have a motion to continue to a date certain of July 9th made by Ms. Baker, seconded by Mr. McKenna. Discussion on the motion. Ms. Baker.
Yes, so these are some substantial guidelines. I think they're in really good shape. Appreciate all the work that staff has done and working with the consultant. I do think they look really good. But as we commented last week at the work session and again tonight, it does feel like we want to give it a little more time to have the public really review this. I think we have an amazing group of really concerned and involved citizens, especially as we look at what recently happened with the HPRB meetings and that. So I think just engaging our community and making sure that they've weighed in. Not that I think there's going to be any concerns, but more just be aware. These are the things that we're passing. Here's what potentially the structure and what's going to be put in place. So we just want folks to have that opportunity and not feel like it's already been decided. And I also think based on what Mr. Kitchen explained, let's just go through kind of a real life example and give you a little time to work with these and make sure, oh yeah, there's something, because that might just help, right? That's often the case when you have to actually look through for the details, and that'll help us find if there is something that should be modified before we go through with this.
Thank you. Mr. McKenna.
I concur with Councilmember Baker, and we also continued 555 Herndon Parkway an extra session, and that was 6 years in the making. So I don't see a problem with that. I don't think this will delay anything too much. So I was in agreement with the 555 Herndon Parkway. So to add a deference to their neighbors, I have no problem with it either.
Further discussion, Madam Vice Mayor.
I hope that our citizens will come forward if they want to have input on this. I don't think we're going to get to defer this on for another 6 months. So try to get in over the next month to let us know what your thoughts are on this and give us some input. Thank you.
Thank you. Other discussion on the motion? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to set out an ask to all the folks that are very active and certainly very vocal about how they feel and where they want the town to go. You know who you are. I hear from you all the time. So this council, this body would very much like to hear your comments going forward, and we really need your input and insight. We do not want to be making these decisions in an echo chamber. So we really want you here. So please come out.
Thank you. Further discussion, Ms. Friedrichs.
And for those who don't know where to find the chapters, they're on the work session website. I didn't see them on the public hearing, but if you go to our website, look at the agenda for the last work session, you'll find the chapters so you can look at them and decide what you think.
Thank you. Other discussion? I concur with my colleagues. I hope that we hear from more of you about what you think about this, which I believe will be perhaps the most important gateway into our town going forward once the metro station opens and that promenade is there. I appreciate you, Mr. Kitchen, taking the opportunity to give us a little heads up that you were going to be here this evening, and I think it's totally reasonable this is only about 5 weeks out. One of the landowners that's here is adjacent to the promenade, and they've been working for a long time. They're working with their adjacent property owners. They're working with town staff. We all have insight in areas of expertise that can work well together, and I think that a few more weeks of making sure we get this right. We don't want to inadvertently do something that makes this more difficult, or our goal here is to have a inviting, vibrant, high-quality, wonderful entrance into the town, and I think that a few more weeks is certainly not too much to ask, so I appreciate the council entertaining that. So if there's no further discussion, there was a motion made by Ms. Baker, seconded by Mr. McKenna, to continue this to a date certain of July 9th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed. Thank you very much. And that brings us to one general item this evening, which is Resolution 19G43, to approve an agreement with the Fairfax County Water Authority authorizing an engineering consulting study of a water pumping station and to reimburse Fairfax Water for the cost of the study. And we'll recognize Tammy Chastain, our Deputy Director of Public Works, for our staff report.
All right, good evening. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Town Council members. Tonight, I am bringing before you an agreement authorizing Fairfax County Water Authority, also known as Fairfax Water, to study a potential booster pumping station. As a little bit of a background, in September 2018, we purchased an additional 1 MGD of water capacity. That brings our total purchase capacity to 5.7 MGD. Our current service is through 3 points of entry or supply from Fairfax Water's distribution center, which can be seen called out on the Bennett Street, Spring Street, and World Gate meters. These 3 points are not capable of providing the town the future demands we require, so we've had multiple conversations with Fairfax Water to find a solution. In 2016, with the water utility master plan, we knew we were going to have to provide it from somewhere. This was a plan that was provided to us through our consultant to come from the north in the Wheelie area and come down and supply water to the 3rd Street and Spring Knoll tanks. This proposed route would cost approximately $6.1 million. In our more recent discussions with Fairfax Water, we believe we found a bit more of a win-win solution for the town and for Fairfax Water. As prior to 2014, the town's water supply came through the 24-inch water main that runs along the W&OD trail. This line was, I think it was 2014, I misspoke. Sorry. The line was unable to support Fairfax City, the town of Herndon, and eastern Loudoun County. So now we utilize the 3 vaults. So by constructing a booster pump station to the east, we would be able to utilize this 24-inch water line as our main supply to the town. This planning estimate is $3 million. I misspoke last week when I said 3.4. The Crestview Drive water main to the northern end, northwestern end would actually be a Fairfax Water. It's something they're thinking of doing, but would not be any cost to us. It would be their project alone. So the pumping station is, this is a proposed location. The engineering study will actually look at more than one location, but this is kind of one we've looked at, and they'll delve a little bit further with this engineering study. And they'll provide a couple options and look at the requirements to this area, such as floodplain issues or any other permitting we would need to do. So in conclusion, we would recommend moving forward with this engineering study. The cost of the study, which is $107,000, which was planned for in our adopted CIP. So this was a known cost that we planned for. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Are there questions for Ms. Chastain? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
So I will entertain a motion.
Madam
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, I move approval of 19G-43.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve made by the Vice Mayor and seconded by Mr. McKenna. Discussion on the motion.
Thank you very much for the very good presentation during the work session as well as tonight. Thank you.
Further discussion? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I agree. And also the cost savings, $3 million for a pumping station. I can tell you that 3 pumping stations on a flat, and it was $24 million, and FEMA covered half of it because of a hurricane that took over. So the value we're getting on top of everything else, and the changes that are happening, we're augmenting them with making sure we can have pressure and things like that. So just great job. I'm really, really happy about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? All right, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? That motion carries. Madam Vice Mayor?
Seeing no other business, I move we adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? And we stand adjourned at 7:51 p.m. Go home and see Gracie.